on this. Okay, so this week, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the drama triangle. Okay, and it is a man explaining, so I thought you gentlemen might find the sense of humor behind there and see that I wasn't having a dig at anybody, that it's the woman explaining the drama triangle. I thought I'd let a man explain it to us this evening. So I found it extremely fascinating, and the concept is very true. And then we'll chat about it just now. So let me just share screen quickly. Sound is shared. There we go. And
a bit impromptu, but the information is really useful. This is about how things go funny in relationships. Human dynamics seem to take a life of their own, but also an almost predictable life of their own. This is called the drama triangle, and it's the work of Stephen Cartman. He first published in 1968, so the theory's been around for quite a while. And the article he wrote was Fairy Tales and Script Drama Analysis, which you can find in the Transactional Analysis Bulletin. So here's Steve Cartman's drama triangle. And the theory is that each of us, under certain circumstances, for some reason or another, seem to take up a particular role in our relationships with other people. There are three. Here's the triangle, and a very common role that people take up is one where they pretend to be, or they run some beliefs that they can't do things on their own, that they need help, that they are somehow less than other people, and we call that the victim position. So this is someone who's always helpless, hopeless, fishing for compliments, looking for other people to help them out. So of course what happens is someone comes along and comes with a complementary role. So it's almost as if these two people have hooks, and one goes through the world looking for someone to hook into. That person appears like a knight in shining armour on a white charger and makes the situation better in some way. The victim looks for and finds what we know as a rescuer. Now, as the victim has certain beliefs about her, himself, that they are less than, so the rescuer has complementary beliefs about people needing them. So one person is needy and one person is needed. So this person, very good intentions, very kind, always ready, always looking after other people, perhaps more than they actually want. So this is the person who comes into the room and says, "How can I help? Does anyone need some help around here?" That's the hook. And so rescuers often hook up with victims. Interestingly, there are certain professions that invite us to be in the rescuer position. So, for example, social workers, psychologists, coaches, people who do good in the world. Nothing wrong with doing good in the world. The question is, how much do we do? How far do we go? But the victim doesn't always meet someone who bails them out. Sometimes the victim meets someone else. In other words, meets a person in a different role to the rescuer role, and this is known as the persecutor. So, if the rescuer has a belief that I can make you feel good by helping you, and therefore confirm your victim position, so the persecutor has a belief that I can make you feel bad, and therefore confirm your victim position. So, it might well be that the victim, while hoping for a rescuer, actually meets a persecutor. The upshot is the same. The upshot's the same for all three. We confirm our beliefs about ourselves and how we be in the world, and we also help other people confirm their beliefs. So these are three very typical roles. Each of us has a favourite position. So if you're asking friends and my colleagues, they would probably tell you that I tend to start off as a rescuer. I want to make the world a better place. It's almost my leitmotif. And I sometimes go too far. I look for victims even when there aren't any victims who want to be looked for, so to speak. So Cartman says that each of us has a favourite role, and we take up that role, and when we do that, we're not really ourselves, we are literally playing a role. There's a touch of something pathological in there. So let me now give you some examples. I remember when I was unpacking a new PC and a new printer, a friend turned up, and I'd got the PC packed out, and there was the printer, and there was a printer cartridge, and I was thinking, oh my God, what do I do with this? And as he walked in to the room, I simply held up the cartridge. He took it out of my hand, unpacked it, unwrapped it, opened the printer, put it in, pressed some buttons, and it worked. It was fascinating. I had been victim just holding up the printer cartridge. He had taken on his rescuer position of not even asking me if I wanted him to do it, opening, unpacking, making it work for me. It was a wonderful example of how relationships slip into the same kind of patterns over and over. So, that's the first part of Cartman's theory. The second part of the theory is that we actually change position. So you might start off in one of these, like being a persecutor, being Mr. Grumpy, being blustery, always picking on people, and then you, for example, always regret it, and you turn into Mr. Nice Guy, who then wants to make things better. A friend of mine was a principal in a school, always very, very helpful. At the beginning of term, he couldn't do enough for people, rescuer position. But by the time midterm came along, he was really tired of being kind and helpful, and he slipped into being a persecutor. So the first half of the term, he trained people to come to him, so to speak, so he could look after them. But then he got tired, so he turned into Mr. Grumpy. So when someone knocked on the door and asked for some help, he would snarl at them rather than be helpful. They wondered what had happened, but when we look at the drama triangle, it's really quite simple. Another example would be a fight between Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Immediately you think, Mr. and Mrs. Smith have a fight, who goes where? The neighbours call the police 12:30 at night. Policeman comes, knocks on the door, says hello, hello, what's going on here then? Door opens. He sees Mrs. Smith with a black eye. Immediately he thinks Mrs. Smith is the victim, and therefore Mr. Smith is the persecutor. So the policeman jumps on the drama triangle and says to Mr. Smith, "You are bad. I am going to arrest you." So he becomes the persecutor, and Mr. Smith then slips down to victim and says, "I didn't mean it. I'm not a bad person." Mrs. Smith now enters the game, jumps on the triangle and says, "He's really not a bad man. He didn't mean anything wrong. He's lovely, really." Both of them confirm that Mr. Smith is now in the victim position. However, the policeman persists at being persecutor, says, "I will take you to the police station." And so Mrs. Smith leaves her rescuer position and says, "Get your hands off my husband. He didn't do what you think he did," and becomes a persecutor. Whereupon the policeman slips from persecutor to victim and says, "I'm only trying to do my job." And so we dance around the drama triangle, leading to the maxim of British life, DGI, don't get involved. It's easier not to get involved. And actually, if we don't get involved, then we don't get on the drama triangle in the first place. So I'll show you in a minute, using the ego states, if you know that model, how we can not get involved. Let's have a quick dialogue. Someone in the audience is going to join me. And as you listen, I suggest you plot on here what's happening. We start.
What's wrong?
It's my PC.
Why don't you try rebooting?
Yeah, but it doesn't really work.
Why don't you call a technician?
Yes, but, you know, they're really quite expensive.
Why don't you use your laptop?
Yeah, well, it won't do the same thing. But tell me, who asked you anyway? So what you've heard is, in a way, quite a typical dialogue. And I start off as a victim with a sigh. That was the hook. And the rescuer heard the sigh and said, "Oh, what's wrong?" I didn't say what was wrong. I simply said, "It's my PC." And then he started coming with his very kind and helpful suggestions, which I hadn't asked for. So in the end, I stopped being victim and became persecutor, and he left rescuer and became victim. And probably if he was a mate or if he was a colleague, we'd always have the same kind of dynamic. So, slight aside, those of you who know the parent-adult-child ego state model will recognise that the victim is actually the adapted child, but the negative adapted child, that the rescuer is the nurturing parent, but the negative nurturing parent where we do it too much, kind of smother. And the persecutor is the negative controlling parent. So that's the book of Steve Cartman. It's brilliant, so useful. And he said that actually, while the roles are pathological in their nature, there's actually 10% that's okay. Now, A.C. Choi heard this and developed what's known as the winner's triangle, taking the same dynamics but taking out the pathology. Let me show you. Instead of the V for victim, we have the V for voice, because what the victim doesn't do is ask directly or use their voice to say, "Please help me," rather than simply, "It's my PC." And another way of saying the V would be not voice, but vulnerability. People don't like to show their vulnerability, so they just do victim. If they said, "Help, I need something," then they would be owning their vulnerability and it wouldn't be pathological. Nothing wrong with being powerful. The persecutor, however, uses his power over others to make them feel bad. We could reframe it and say that P is simply for powerful. How would it be if you simply owned your power and used it to make the situation better? Third role is not rescuer, but responsive, I-V-E at the end. And we're responsive to the requests from the other person. So, with this dialogue that you've just heard, I sighed and there was a response. And there was a rescue, rather than someone being responsive to what I said, which was, what do you need? Can I help? Then we would have had a contract and we wouldn't have got into the psychological hook that went on. A.C. Troy actually used slightly different words. For responsive, the word is caring, and for powerful, the word is assertive. This, believe it or not, was published in 1968, and A.C. Troy published in the Transactional Analysis Journal in 1990. Both articles are really worth reading. Thank you so much.
Very good. Very good.
No. There, guys. Right. Wasn't that interesting? Who would like to share what they took out of that? Anthony is here. He said he'll wait a bit and let someone else share first. Yes, Fernando.
You'll help people to get to a point where you say enough is enough.
Help people get to a point when you say enough is enough. Sometimes that's in the first two words. Good. Yes, Liz.
I react very well on the sigh. So when Wayne sighs on his side of the table and he's battling with his computer, he's just had it redone.
Yeah.
And so files have been moved and things like that. So he gets frustrated. And I'm like, just be patient, press the button, it will be fine. So I'm persecutor as well as rescuer sometimes, my poor husband.
I must say, Liz, I found it very fascinating when he was sharing the tale of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, of how quickly we can transition in and out of these roles. And to know when we're in the roles of which role am I in right now? I mean, he literally jumped from even that example where he sighed and he literally went from victim to persecutor. Okay, so what's your case? Why are you asking me all these questions? And I'm like, okay. So, and I went on and why I looked at this for myself before someone else adds is that I was on a phone call, and as far as I was concerned, the conversation had ended. The person had told me what they wanted, and to me, the conversation had ended. So I went away from this nice person, speaking nicely, being responsive, being all the winner triangle. I literally was in the winner triangle. I was like scoring all 4 points in the winner triangle. And this person didn't want to get on this phone. They wanted to keep telling me their point. And I went straight. I beelined right to persecutor. Not in what I said, but in my tone of voice. Okay. So that's when I thought, hold on, what went wrong? And so I went through all my other material, this stuff, and I couldn't. And then I was just chatting to someone and they said, have you heard of the drama triangle? I thought, well, drama came from that. So I need to learn to look at this drama triangle. And that's what happened to me. So awesome. George?
You know, Michelle, that what he showed there is life. Because it doesn't matter where you go, it's going to happen. In any situation, you're going to be either a victim or you're going to be the prosecutor or whatever the case may be. It's going to change roles the whole time throughout your life. I mean, if I come to somebody and I know how to fix something and I can see he cannot do it, I'm going to say, I'm going to help him. Other way around. So if he comes to me and he sees I'm struggling and I know he can do it, I'm going to ask him for help. It's just like that. So this thing is going to change around all the time.
True. All the time. And it's to say, you know, and I don't think there's anything, like you said, it's okay. 10% of the time, it's actually okay. Each of the roles are okay. And I liked him saying that it's that, but we mustn't live in those spaces. Like, for example, I'm going to use an example between Georgia and Ant. So Ant is trying to fix something, and him and I are hitting a plastic pipe, with a hammer. And George says, no, he has the right tool to use. And it was just in talking. So it was, you know, we weren't the victims, but we actually needed help. But we didn't know that we needed help until George actually showed us that this is the right tool to use. And then when we used it, it was fixed. So Anton and George lived in that, I wouldn't say victim, but in that 10% where he had the solution and Anthony needed help. So it wasn't like a victim say, and you're right, George. So those times are fun. It's when we live in that victim state, and I associate with Liz. The first that I think us women, if we hear our men sigh, the first thing we jump up and say, what's wrong? How can I help you? What must I do? You know, to get to I mean, ask Anthony, what was that sigh about? He said, I just yawned. Can't I breathe? You know.
No, but you know, sometimes we do it because we're lazy. I mean, I know, Wayne, maybe you can relate to that. Or we just don't want to do it, and then we do stuff like that, you know, and play victim. But I mean, that's just joking.
But you're
about
right,
it.
it's life. But you're right, it's life, George. Awesome. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing. And we see it in our children too, hey? They know how to play victim pretty quick. Very quick. You want to add anything?
No, I'm listening. I'll wait my turn.
Anybody else want to
So
add?
can I just, yes,
Leonie.
I just want to add, sorry, I'm not going to put my video on, not a good day, hair day. What struck me is angles. In Afrikaans, we say invalshoeke, is that some 20 odd years later, a guy being drama says, the word says it's drama.
Yeah.
But some 20 odd years later, a guy took the P, the R, and the V and make it positive. So looking at the positive side of it and saying, but hang on, out of this drama can come something positive out of this. So that was the invalshoeke of both the of Cartman and Choi. It's just so, yeah, it was just so interesting that looking on the other side of the coin, and it's a totally different outcome just by looking at it from a different angle.
Awesome. I'm so glad you said that, because if you look at our parents, okay, and I'm going to come to you now, Vinny. If you look at our parents and how they resolved issues, so I'm a 1964 baby. So I look at my parents resolving issues, and this Cartman was obviously an adult in 1968. But they didn't know how to solve issues from a positive perspective. How we transitioned and counseling and all the rest of it in those days, and see how it's moved. And now we're looking for the positive solution. And then come the 1990s, and I remember Ant and I got married in 94. And so the 1990s, I still was looking at life from a negative perspective. And after 2 years, so around about 1996, was put sort of my first discovery on how we can actually think. It was actually the boundaries course, which we've done before, that got me starting to think and ask questions and looking at life from a positive perspective. So you can see how even the psychologists have moved in over the years. And so when I saw the winner triangle, now all the other ones that I've watched previous to finding this particular guy, I mean, he's not the most dynamic speaker, but he was the only one that spoke about Choi and spoke about the winner. And that's why I thought I liked the fact that he brought in the positive sides, whereas all the others only talk about the drama triangle. Was interesting. Yes, Billy.
This is also new to me, and I've been listening what you guys say, and I think the person in control is the person in the positive side, and I'd also like to concentrate on that in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, Billy.
The control of the conversation is the person on the positive side.
Awesome. I love that, because it is about when we feel we're the victim, how do I get my voice? And it's so important to find out what is my voice. How can I share what I want to share? How can I overcome? And we've seen Henry, for example, at work, moving over from that victim state, and she's moving into this voice state. And it's so amazing to see as we watch her in the workplace. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Billy. And
but wouldn't you also say that
Fernando?
A victim can also, in a way, control, use his victim to be in control of the situation?
Big time. big time. They try and, yes, correct. There we go, Leonie. I was just going to say, so your victims manipulate manipulate circumstances, like they know exactly when to sigh at the right time. Yes, you want to say it here?
Yeah, for me, Cartman is basically glass half empty and Choi is glass half full.
Nice.
It's all about perspective, because you and I can look at the same glass of water that's exactly halfway. The one person will see it as half empty, the one person will see it as half full. So that comes after years of influence in terms of the way that you were raised. However, what we need to say to ourselves is, have we removed the pathology? The pathology is the part that is dangerous in the drama triangle, because the pathology is the one where you literally regress and you fall back into victim state, for instance, because you know that's how you get results. That's poor pathology. That is showing that you are using deploy tactics or negative tactics to get your way.
Yeah.
And if that is what you do naturally, then I would say there is an opportunity for a path to grow, to go to the Choi way of realizing that if you make the victim a voice, that you can literally turn any situation around. But here's the truth. Because you got away so much in the past with being playing the victim and you got results, when you try it the first time to be the voice and you don't get the results, guess what you'll do? Go right back to victim, because you see that pathology works. But that is sick, short term. But long term, there's no positive growth. So I'm looking at this from a psychology point of view, saying what is the positive winner circle approach, so that the pathology can be crucified. And the whole thing is, the moment we start becoming other person-centered OPC, everything changes. Here's the truth. What is the number one sin that is actually making this world a worse place? And that is the unholy trinity. I, me, and myself. And the moment we have the I, me, and myself, which means we've become self-centered. You heard last week, Dr. Michelle saying, selfish is good, self-centered is negative. So if we can change from that self-centeredness, where we actually abuse drama, whether it be victim or persecutor. By the way, persecutor can be as bad, because some people play persecutor purely because of the power and the abuse of power, because they actually regain control, which is the controlling parent, because I said so. Well, that doesn't solve the problem really. It's a short-term solution, but it does not give a long-term gain. So in each one of these, the way to remove the pathology is to say, when does it not go over the line of, in Afrikaans, alles wat te goed is nie goed nie, behalwe tevrede. You can't say that in English. You know, anything that is an exaggeration is not a good thing. But when you get to the point of peace, of this is right, this is good, and that is the check back, that changes everything. So what am I saying to myself? I'm saying evaluation. Evaluate the truth about any situation and evaluate, were you truthful to yourself, or were you truly just in a vortex because your emotions would not allow you to stop, look, listen, think, respond in that sequence. And I think this is what goes wrong. We allow emotions to dictate our actions as opposed to head, hearts, hands. Because we spoke about that in the third previous session, and that is that what people do is they immediately just get emotional and it goes to their hands. I mean, head to hands, and we mess it up. But if it's head into a heart, there's this double check in the spirit that says, this is not right. You know, responding like that. I mean, I had a momentarily flip out at my wife today. She said something and I barked at her. And I just saw her go, and she became quiet. I washed the dishes and I just said to her, hey, sweetheart, I think I spoke a bit harshly to you there. Forgive me, I'm sorry. Okay. And I just had to leave her to feel better again, which means, and was it intentional? No, I was under pressure to get something done. So I would speak to her in a hurried way. But it came across to her like I was barking and I was actually being ugly. And I wasn't. I was stressed.
He was ugly.
I was ugly to her. To me, I was stressed. But I had to take accountability.
Say it as it is.
I had to take accountability and to say, I recognized that things had to change because I had a choice. I can actually act as if it did not happen, or take accountability and say, sweetheart, I think I spoke a bit harshly there. I'm sorry, forgive me, please. Okay. That takes the pathology out of it. That becomes a human being to say, hey, I messed up.
Again, there's lots of different pathologies. So this is specifically your psychiatric pathology.
Yeah.
Okay, specifically. Anybody else want to add anything? You all good? A form of, if anybody type in or just, unmute yourself, but a type of persecutor, or this whole psychiatric pathology that we're seeing a big pattern in the world at the moment, has a lot to do with bullying in schools, and specifically more so on cyberbullying now. And it's what made me think of it when Anthony was talking, and then I remember writing down that he specifically said psychiatric pathology, because there's so many different types of pathologies, and basically that is it's your, if allowed, the victim, if they stay in that pattern, they will become suicidal. And it reminded me of just literally two and a half weeks ago, here at one of the schools in Pretoria. A group of girls, obviously they play hockey or whatever together, and they had taken pictures of each other in the showers and all the rest of it. So basically they took pictures of each other naked. Then this group of girls, as girls can be, they broke up their friendship. And then what happened is the one girl who had the pictures on her phone started being very nasty, and started then being a bully, and started sending the pictures of this particular girl naked to the other girls in the team. When the girl whose picture it was found out, she obviously knew that if her parents found out, what would happen is that she would get into major trouble. And so she went to the teacher and said to the teacher, this is what's happened, what must I do? And the teacher became a persecutor. And the teacher persecuted this young girl and told her it was her fault and all the rest of it. And that was on the Friday. Monday, this young girl did not want to go to school. And she was traumatized beyond all trauma, because this girl had been taunting her the whole weekend, saying, and then the other girls who'd seen the picture now were taunting her as well. So the mother then went to the school to find out what was wrong. When the mother came home, this young girl had committed suicide. And so sometimes persecutors, from the bullying perspective, can push people so far, and it's so, and this whole thing is no longer just something that is just happening between our lives and every single day. It can become extremely destructive. And because the parents were not, this girl was terrified her folks would find out, that she would rather kill herself. So it shows you the parents must have been persecutors as well, because only someone would have done that if they had been bullied themselves by their parents. And we don't understand what happens as persecutors, or the critical parent, the negative controlling parent that they spoke about. And we speak about this parent and our child, and how important it is for us, not just for us to personally grow, but the impact of us growing ourselves that it has on the people around us. And this happened 2 weeks ago. So when Ant was talking, and I wanted to just find out what pathology he had spoken about, and I'd forgotten that he had said psychiatric pathology. And the article that I looked up talks about bullying, how this stays, and it can lead to suicide. And it reminded me of this story. So the reality is, we do jump between all these, but how can you and I transition quickly to that winner triangle, which means I have a voice, I'm responsive, and it's not power, but it's assertive. It's owning my space, own who I am, own where I stand. And I experienced this afternoon as well with the academy. and after speaking to the people who are going to help us with the accreditation. And I realized I felt extremely inadequate. And the moment I felt inadequate, I stepped into victim mindset. Okay. And so it shows you again how quickly these things do happen. And I had to get myself, fortunately, I had now listened to this guy. And I thought, no, Michelle, because that is, I'm feeling helpless. The moment I was feeling helpless, I was in victim mode. I could have continued my conversation with Haneli from a victim perspective, but I had to transition myself. No, Michelle, jump back into the winner one and own your power. You've been given the position. Yes, you don't know what to do, but we're going to get through it. And the moment I transitioned that, I found the relief come, and I found I could handle the situation. So for me, it was very, oh, thanks, Liz. It shows you how we're jumping in and out of these. No wonder we're all psychologically damaged. Anybody else want to add anything?
I'd like to ask a question. I think we are sometimes very harsh on ourselves, and because as we went through these, I immediately identified and said, I think I'm a rescuer because of my nature to assist people and say, how can I help you? How can I step up? How can I lighten your burden? However, looking through it and I'm asking the question, it might feel that you're the rescuer, but if you truly have a caring, serving heart, does it make you a rescuer? I'm asking.
Yeah, I have my answer.
Let's hear the people. What do you say? I mean, because I'm naturally say, how can I help you? How can we improve the system? How can we get to the next level? Does it make me a rescuer? Talk to me.
I'd say yes.
Good one. Nice one. Wayne, do you want to say something? Or are you just sitting up straight?
No, not necessarily. It depends on where you're coming from and where that person's at. Because if that person is not really needing the help, so it wouldn't really be a rescue situation for them.
You hit it on the head. Did you guys hear there? Did they need the help or not?
Yeah.
And I really believe that's the difference. A person coming in and said, how can I assist? From a caring perspective, is not necessarily a rescuer. But when the people don't need it and you come and you want to enforce it upon them, then you're playing rescuer. I think you nailed it. I wanted somebody to just pick that up.
So then I'm going to go back to you. You needed George's help the other day because he had the solution of the pup.
Yeah.
But it didn't mean you went into victim mode. See, there's a big difference between you need help and you needy.
Need versus needy.
Yeah. So if you're a needy person, you will always be that yummy yumma bowl attitude to life. Okay. But if you need help, it's a different, because we all do need help sometimes. And it's only the power to say, I need help. So also your role that you're playing is job specific. So need uses, I love it. So need uses voice, needy is a challenge. Okay, so if you need help, you say, here's my voice. So I'm not a victim. Here's my voice. I need some help. Okay, I don't know how to do this, that, and the next thing, or whatever it might be. So there's a big difference between being needy and needing help. And also a rescuer, job specific. It is your job to go in and say, okay, does anybody need some help? Who needs this? Who needs that? Who needs the next thing? So Michelle, as an operations person, would say, okay, so Haneli, do you need anything? What do you need? Suzette, do you need this? What do you need this? And it's her job to go and ask before they become needy. She needs to identify their need.
That's good.
Awesome. Cool.
There's another thing, and that I don't know. Let me put it like this. You get people that if somebody's busy doing something, they will come there and try to take it over.
Yeah.
I know my one brother was like that. When my father used to work in the garage, he wanted to take over. He wanted to do, he didn't even know what he was going to do, but he wanted to take over by what he was doing. Now you get a lot of people that's like that. You're busy doing something and they want to take it out of your hands and try and do it.
I agree with you. I think they're more persecutor rescuers than rescuer persecutors.
Yeah.
Hey, George, let me tell you what happened. You remember that little pipe I was smacking in the hammer? Guess which persecutor came and took the hammer out of my hand?
I did.
Said, use the side of the hammer. And I went, fine, if you want to do that, take the hammer.
I could just see him breaking this. I literally said, give me, and I took the hammer. So I really did like full-on persecution. You're not hitting my pop anymore. I'll hit it.
That's how much trust we have here. The hammer gets taken from my little hands.
Guys,
from the persecutor.
I have a story that justifies.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So
I know, George.
I know, but it's it's exactly what happened before we told you we needed some help and you gave us a pop.
And I just want to say, you saying that if Michelle has to go around and ask the people, do you need help? Do you need help? Do you need help? She can get tuned in so well that I remember that from being the deputy at school. You would just look at somebody and know that that teacher is in distress, she needs help, but they sometimes are too proud to say to you that they actually need. So Michelle has got that soft spirit as well. So I'm sure she can just go around and then we'll notice by just looking at their body language, their posture, or the way that they move, that they actually need help. So she can go in as the rescuer, but in an assertive, reassuring, caring way, rather than taking over and doing that. And that will change the whole situation, and it will be a lovely space to work in then.
Very well said, Liz. Well said. That's really a nice example of putting it together. Awesome.
I want to bring out Henry here. Henry, you did something the other day which actually showed how you had grown from victim mentality to owning it. And that is that there was something on her mind and she was concerned about it. And instead of just being the victim and just keeping it to herself, she actually said to me, Doc, I need to come and talk to you. She immediately owned it. And I knew what you wanted to talk to me about. But just that transition, I'm talking to you and I'm complimenting you. To see the change to see the change in you, whereas before it would have eaten you up and you would have swallowed it and you would have sat in your little corner. You came out and said, Doc, I need to talk about it. So when people want to be better, they start becoming a voice as opposed to a victim. And Henry, you got it right. I just think there was a win for you.
Nice one. Well done. Awesome.
Thank you. I've got great teachers.
And you're a good learner, fast learner, so that's awesome. Marina, do you want to say anything? Do you want to type in anything? Any comments or anything you've learned from it?
No, I'm good for now. Thanks, Michelle.
Awesome. Awesome. Billy, you wanted to say?
Yeah, so this is interesting, the triangle for me, because all 3 points let me think of different personalities.
Yeah,
but it's only 3. So I think people develop from one to another, and as you mature, and also maybe certain people can be one of more the rescuer than the persecutor. But some people is naturally maybe the victim always.
Yeah.
And then you have to have with help change. Someone like Anthony can help with that to change to a better position.
So I'm going to give you an example. So you're mentoring a very young gentleman at the moment. You know who I'm talking about. If you have to look at him right now on the drama triangle, you know exactly where he's sitting, isn't it? So now it's how do I move him from that position that he's sitting as victim, and it's his circumstances that are making him the victim. He doesn't want to be there. Okay. So now how do we get him to get a voice, to have that power, and then be responsive to his situation and responsive to the person who's persecuting him, who he's married to right now? Do you see that? Awesome. It's interesting. Yes. I would say, Fernando, I'm going to ask Doc to answer that from the DISC perspective.
Yeah.
Who would live more in each of these have a tendency to jump into them quicker?
Okay. It's actually fait accompli that the victims, the 2 people that will go there first, your high sanguine will go there very first. Very quickly. And attached to it will be the emotion and the outbursts and the overreaction. The second one is the quiet one, is the actual phlegmatic, because the phlegmatic will swallow it and woe is me. it's most natural for those two styles. Can they grow out of it? Of course, but it takes practice. It's like an affirmation. You know, if I say to someone, please do an affirmation that says, I am brave, those two people, although they both can fall into victim, their behavior pattern is different. Like the phlegmatic will softly say, I'm brave. That's who they are. Whereas the high I will say, I'm brave, but they won't believe it. So don't get fooled by the mannerism in which they do it, because the one is an extrovert and the other is an introvert. But yes, those two are given to that.
Could jump there quickly.
Could jump there. Then let's look at rescuer. I can tell you now, the two people who are most guilty of rescuer is the choleric, because they want to get to a solution very, very fast.
Yeah.
And also the sanguine, because the sanguines want to rescue the people. I'm talking who mostly.
Yeah.
Okay. And then persecutor, without a doubt, your melancholy is first, and your driver, your D, is the second person. So you see how we spin around this thing depending on the circumstance. I think.
And your I can be a persecutor very quickly because of their insecurity, sort of visibility.
Yeah.
Can also be a very, very high persecutor.
Okay, let's play open cards here.
Just want to get Tessa. Tessa wants to say something first.
Tess, you first.
You wanted to say something, Tess?
Yes, but I want Anne to first finish, and then I just want to say something about the two triangles.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I'm asking the question, for instance, from a point of trying to understand. It is tongue-in-cheek, but I'd like to understand, why did you take the hammer from me if I was doing a job that was perfectly okay? I need to know.
Because from my perspective, you were not doing a good job, and I could do a better job. And
okay, now let's take it back. So now
George, I'm coming to ask for some wine.
Now I take George's peg. He gave us the steel peg that he can get into the hole to make those. So I get the thing in. I use the hammer. I didn't miss once, and I was pegging it into the ground. Why did you still take the hammer from me?
I wanted to make sure you did a good job.
It's because it's Michelle, that's why.
George, that's also true.
Okay, I want to give you guys a bit of a tip, because in the past, here's the truth. Michelle can put a plug on faster than I can put a plug on. I swear there's the truth. In the past, when I used to hammer a nail into the wall, I would get 1, 2, 3 times, and then the fourth time I'll freaking miss the nail, and I would literally crack her wall.
So I would take
Then your finger would be the victim.
But I can be truthful here. It's because of her memory that says, he is going to stuff this up. That's right. Although this time I had it pat.
Okay,
the past behavior said, you are
George, the last time that he did this, didn't he break it? And we had to come and pick up.
Where was this?
The pulpit was in the front, and we had to go and get George's one.
Yes.
Too funny. Sorry.
I'm not saying anything. I didn't take your job over. I just gave you a means to do it. That's all I did.
Anthony, I think between these two, you are the victim.
He's definitely.
Yes, I am. I'm crying victim. They've taken my voice.
George is the rescuer, and I'm the persecutor.
Anthony just wants to get it finished.
Sorry, Fernando.
No patience. Anthony is like me, no patience. He wants to get it finished, get it done, and get it finished.
Absolutely. Okay. But I bring that to you guys' attention in terms of how we default.
It's true.
Because of our past experiences.
Exactly.
And if I look at the past, Michelle is so justified, because man, I have cracked a few walls. I'm not good at the hammer. I can't like hammer straight. I know.
You're lucky we're out of time. Otherwise, I will tell them about the first time you did use a screw and pushed it through everything.
Glad we're out of time this time.
Tessa, yes. The two triangles, Tess?
Yes, so I quickly just want to mention something. I don't know if it's relevant but let's just quickly talk about it. So the first triangle that we see, the victim is at the bottom, and the persecutor and the rescuer is on top. They on top, they are sort of pushing the victim down.
Yes.
The other one, the moment that the victim has got a voice, the victim raises to the top, and the other two are sort of supportive and no longer bullying.
I like that.
Very nice.
I like that. Awesome. You're so right. So it's like lifting up versus pushing, condemning and pushing a person down. Thank you. Gosh, that's nice perspective. Thank you, Tess. Awesome. I like that.
Very smarty pants. Well done.
Yeah. Thank you.
Henry, you've been too quiet. Come, I want to hear from you.
I don't really have anything to say. I'm just taking in at
Awesome.
the moment.
What was that?
Down.
What was something nice that you heard that you thought, gee, that's interesting?
The whole conversation about the triangles, and makes me think of a lot of situations that I've been in.
Awesome.
Where, yeah, like the victim, it's easy to fall back into the victim stage.
It is, isn't it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I get you. Awesome. But at least we have the winner's triangle, and that's what we got to go for.
Yeah, okay.
Right. There's a type. And then anybody else want to add anything? Can triangle be? Oh, yes, Fernando's done. Sorted. All right. Thank you, guys. That was really a great session. A good humorous one at that. You can see we've grown a lot because none of us are going into this victim space tonight. We're like, whatever. We've been there, done that. The pipe is fixed now, so we'll just sit in the winner's circle.
I think Michelle reckons that tonight she nailed it.
I did. Awesome, guys. Anybody want to say the last thing, or we're all good?
Come, those two Rogers Dicky birds. Come on. I mean, there we have the same interaction.
The only thing that I now can basically tell you is this victim is now need to go
awesome.
Washing machine. So the Persecutor already said you need to go fix it.
You've been sent off.
I still stay the operations manager even at home.
Awesome. I love it.
Jy nie geweet dis wanneer 'n man 'n mens word nie. Wanneer 'n
mens.
Ja, dink jy 'n mens kan hierdie wasmasjien regmaak, dan moet jy dit kan doen, jy sien.
You know, word it's not even gesê 'n mens, it's just you better go fix it.
Awesome.
I did say please.
Oh, there we go. You see, she said please, so she went straight to win a triangle.
Does when does the persecutor know please?
That's how
Michelle, persecutor with please, boom.
But see, she was very responsive in saying please. Awesome, I love it.
We'll say the winner.
I agree with you, Mish.
Must always remember that please always comes with a condition. Will you please fix the washing machine, or else you won't have clothes.
Or else.
Or else.
And you just see the eyes, then you know.
You know.
No, there's no condition, but the eyes are this big. You only come, you be quiet, so you close this off us tonight. To summarize, because I think the way Tessa had the upside down triangles for
raising
me
up and
was sort of my learning tonight of the fact that you could see that the moment if you do it correctly, the victim can go to the top as the voice. So
I love that.
Can you just summarize that for us? How do you see that in practice when we use it or not use it?
I just think that it's very empowering. And it makes you free. That whole being vulnerable makes you free, and also the victim coming on top at the end of the day. Looking at it on the bright side. For years, when you see yourself as a victim, for years and years you'll keep quiet about something, and you'll see yourself as a victim, and you'll accept that. But as soon as you look at switch that around and you get your voice, and I must say, this whole journey from December ending up in these sessions, I always thought I had an excellent internal locus of control, but I've just been quiet and learning such a lot. Thank God for this opportunity. But just looking at another invalshoek, just another angle of it, not looking at the drama triangle, but choose to identify the roles that you see around you and decide where you're going to be. Am I going to act out of the winner triangle, or am I going to take part in the drama triangle? And then like Tessa said, then choosing and to come on top by the grace of God, identifying it, and that having a discernment and that head to heart, taking it through the Spirit. Oh, it's just so awesome. Actually, I'm in awe about all this openbaringe wat ons kry hier. But yeah, coming out victorious.
Awesome.
Voice for me will be victorious as from now. Yeah, so
Awesome.
thanks, Tessa.
Awesome.
Billy,
Thanks, Leonie.
Billy, I just sense something in the Spirit. You want to say something there?
Yeah, you are correct. It is something in the Spirit. Jesus became the victim by choice, and then with his blood that flow became the voice.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you. So DGI, don't get involved. George, DGI, don't get involved. Awesome. Guys, thank you very, very much. Are you done?
Done.
Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. Thanks for joining us. And I will get both recordings to you tomorrow from last week and this week. So love you all. Thanks for the session.
Bye.
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 Cheers, everybody.
Bye.